So, you woke up this morning, staggered into the kitchen, and fumbled with that red canister or maybe a fancy looking bag from the grocery aisle to brew your first cup. It's the ritual, right? That warm, comforting hug in a mug that makes facing the world possible. You take that first sip, close your eyes, and just exist. But have you ever actually looked at what's inside that mug? I mean, really looked? Because let me tell you, what the multi-billion-dollar coffee industry is pouring down your throat every single morning is enough to make you want to swear off caffeine forever. We're not talking about a bad roast or stale beans here. We are talking about systematic deception, corporate greed that values pennies over your health, and a regulatory Wild West where 100% coffee on the label is practically a punchline. By the time we're done today, you're not just going to see your morning ritual differently, you're going to be demanding answers from the brands sitting right on your counter. You're watching this because you deserve the truth, not the marketing fluff. Stick with me to the end, and you'll find out how to spot a bag of coffee that's actually bulked up with roasted corn and twigs before you even buy it. I'll show you exactly how to navigate the decaf aisle without accidentally drinking residues of a chemical banned in paint strippers. We're going to break down the laboratory data on mycotoxins, mold toxins, that are likely contaminating over 90% of the cheap stuff. And I'll name the 5 brands that are genuinely, verifiably clean, including the absolute best option that probably costs less than what you're drinking now. Trust me, the most shockingly widespread fraud in the entire industry, something that hits almost every single major brand at Walmart, Kroger, and Safeway, is coming up near the end of part 2, and you cannot afford to miss it. Before we start trashing specific brands, we need to talk about how this game is rigged. You see, coffee isn't just a bean. It's a globally traded commodity, second only to oil. And just like oil, there are different grades. The high-end stuff, what we call specialty coffee, is graded meticulously for quality. Then there's commercial-grade coffee. This is the commodity stuff, the sludge that makes up the vast majority of what Americans drink. It's sourced from wherever is cheapest that week, mixed together from massive supply chains across different continents, and roasted till it's oily and black to hide the defects. Think of it like this. If specialty coffee is a prime ribeye from a single-family ranch, commercial coffee is a mysterious gray burger patty from a massive fast food chain. It all technically comes from a cow, but you really don't want to know how that patty was made. The grinding process is the industry's magic trick. Roast coffee is brown, oily, and ground into a uniform powder. This makes it incredibly easy to bulk up with cheaper fillers that the human eye, or even a casual taste, cannot detect. We are talking about documented cases of ground coffee, adulterated with roasted corn, barley, soybeans, wheat, and even twigs and sticks. Once these ingredients are roasted and ground alongside the beans, they become invisible. You think you're paying premium prices for 100% coffee, but you might actually be subsidizing a corporate cost-cutting measure that feeds you roasted soy. And then there's the hidden chemistry. Coffee is one of the most heavily pesticide-sprayed crops on Earth. Conventional production relies on a cocktail of synthetic chemicals to keep yields high. The one we're most worried about is glyphosate, the active ingredient in Roundup, which is used heavily in coffee fields. And it's not just chemicals we're spraying on the crop, it's what grows on the bean. The way commodity coffee is stored, in massive, often damp warehouses for months or years, creates the perfect environment for mold and fungi. These molds produce toxic compounds called mycotoxins, specifically ochratoxin A and aflatoxin B1. These aren't just gross, they are probable carcinogens and potent kidney toxins. When you buy the cheapest bag on the shelf, you're not getting a deal. You're often getting the raw end of a race to the bottom, where quality control is the first thing to go. But hey, it's cheap, right? That's what matters. Let's talk about the specific culprits sitting on your grocery store shelves right now, starting with the baseline of cheap commodity sludge. We have to look at Walmart's Great Value coffee. It's a staple in millions of American households because it is dirt cheap, often costing less than half the price per ounce of a name brand. Walmart is a corporate behemoth that pulled in over $648 billion in fiscal 2024. Yet, when it comes to the coffee they put their name on, transparency goes completely out the window. They source this stuff from massive commodity suppliers who pack it under the Great Value label without disclosing the specific origin, the farms, or any testing results for contaminants. Economists call this a race to the bottom, because to sell a bag of coffee for a few bucks, you have to source the cheapest, lowest grade, robust beans available on the global market, often the ones rejected by specialty buyers. We are talking about broken, defective beans that were improperly dried or stored in humid, mold-inducing conditions. The Clean Label Project's testing of 57 products from 45 top-selling brands confirmed that heavy metals, mycotoxins, and pesticides run rampant through this category. For a company with the resources to test every lot, choosing not to publish third-party testing leaves you playing Russian roulette with ochratoxin A. Great Value coffee is the corporate equivalent of sweeping the warehouse floor, putting it in a plastic tub, and calling it breakfast. And if you think switching over to Kroger brand coffee protects you, think again. As the largest traditional supermarket chain in the United States, Kroger competes directly with Walmart on price, and they use the exact same playbook. Their store brand coffee is sourced and roasted by anonymous contract suppliers, meaning the consumer has zero ways to verify the origin or testing protocols. Because it relies on a pooled commodity stream, a bag you buy in the spring might contain entirely different beans from a bag you buy in the fall, even if the label looks identical. You are buying into a broken system that prioritizes volume over safety. If you already feel like checking your own kitchen shelves right now, go ahead and hit that subscribe button because the betrayal gets much worse from here. Let's move on to the classic American heritage brands, starting with Maxwell House, owned by the $26 billion multinational giant Kraft Heinz. They've been riding on the coattails of their good to the last drop slogan for over a century, targeting older consumers who trust the red canister because their grandmothers did. But tradition isn't the same as verified purity. Maxwell House sources commodity-grade beans through opaque global networks without a single shred of farm-level traceability or third-party lab transparency. Because it's sold pre-ground in massive containers meant to sit in your pantry for months, it turns into an oxidized, stale mess within days of opening. But the real danger lies in their instant coffee line. Dr. Jack Wolfson, a prominent cardiologist, frequently warns that highly processed food products are the primary vectors for undisclosed industrial fillers. Instant coffee is the absolute most vulnerable format for adulteration because it's just a processed powder. The industry has a documented history of blending instant coffee with cheap chicory and roasted cereal products that are chemically altered to be indistinguishable from actual coffee. Maxwell House is charging you a premium for a household legacy while delivering an unverified commodity stream that treats your health as an afterthought. Then we have Folgers, the absolute king of American retail coffee, owned by the JM Smucker Company, an $8 billion empire that also controls Cafe Bustelo and Dunkin' retail coffee. The famous "best part of waking up" jingle has brainwashed generations into thinking that bright red plastic tub is a symbol of quality. In reality, Folgers is the ultimate archetype of industrial commodity coffee. It is a mass-produced, multi-origin blend designed to compete strictly on price and convenience. Folgers does not publish third-party lab results for mycotoxins, glyphosate, pesticides, or heavy metals. The pre-ground format itself is a massive quality trap. Coffee begins to lose its volatile aromatic and nutritional compounds within minutes of grinding. By the time a tub of Folgers hits a Walmart or Target shelf, it is weeks or months past its peak freshness, and every scoop you take exposes the remaining grounds to oxygen, destroying the beneficial antioxidants. Like Maxwell House, Folgers heavily pushes instant coffee crystals, the most heavily processed form of the bean, spray dried or freeze dried from concentrated brewed sludge where any semblance of a real coffee bean is erased, leaving a massive window open for cheap fillers. Speaking of J.M. Smucker, let's look at their ethnic darling, Cafe Bustelo. Known for its iconic yellow packaging and bold espresso-style dark roast flavor, it has built a massive cult following. But there is a dark side to dark roasting. In the coffee industry, heavy roasting is the ultimate tool for masking defects. A dark, smoky, bitter profile completely obliterates the taste of lower quality, moldy, or broken beans that would be immediately exposed in a light roast. It's the culinary equivalent of burning a cheap steak to a crisp so you can't tell it was turning gray. Furthermore, high heat roasting processes generate elevated levels of acrylamide, a chemical compound classified as a probable human carcinogen. Cafe Bustelo doesn't give you third-party testing data. They just give you a wall of smoke that burns away the evidence of a cheap commodity supply chain. Now, let's peel back the curtain on the actual filler fraud happening industry-wide. Scientists from the State University of Londrina presented horrifying data at an American Chemical Society meeting, demonstrating that ground coffee is one of the most commonly adulterated food products on the planet. Because it's a uniform brown powder, massive suppliers bulk it up with roasted corn, maize, barley, soybeans, wheat middlings, acai seeds, coffee husks, and literal twigs. The researchers had to invent high-performance liquid chromatography tests just to catch the fraud, because simple visual inspection is completely useless. A 2021 study published in the journal Foods confirmed that when coffee prices spike on the global market, the corporate incentive to dilute your morning brew with cheap grains goes through the roof. This isn't just an economic scam, it's a severe health hazard. If you have a wheat or soy allergy, drinking a mass-market ground coffee that has been secretly padded with undisclosed wheat middlings or soybeans can trigger a severe reaction from a product that lists nothing but coffee on the ingredient panel. Next up is the invisible poison, the mycotoxin crisis. Molds like Aspergillus and Penicillium love to feast on coffee cherries during harvesting and transport. A devastating study published in Cogent Food and Agriculture confirmed that contamination occurs at multiple critical processing stages. In fact, one widely cited industry study found that a staggering 91.7% of green coffee beans tested were contaminated with mold before roasting. While roasting reduces some of these toxins, it does not eliminate them entirely. Ochratoxin A builds up in your organs over years of daily consumption, quietly causing kidney damage and acting as a stealth carcinogen. If you are drinking 2 or 3 cups of cheap commodity coffee every single day for decades, you are exposing your body to a continuous, low-grade chemical assault because these big brands refuse to pay for batch-by-batch testing. Then there is the chemical load. A 2024 laboratory screening commissioned by the Consumer Wellness Group, Mammovation, sent ground coffee samples to 3 EPA-certified labs, screening for over 500 pesticides, mycotoxins, and PFAS, the infamous forever chemicals. The results were terrifying. Coffee drinkers consistently show higher levels of PFAS in their blood, entering the supply chain through contaminated soil, processing equipment, and chemical-laden packaging materials. Combined with the massive amounts of glyphosate sprayed on conventional coffee plantations, your morning cup is practically a liquid pesticide delivery system. Let's talk about Starbucks grocery coffee. a brand that carries massive consumer trust built on its cafe culture and aggressive sustainability marketing. In 2025, a massive class action lawsuit shattered that illusion, alleging that Starbucks' claims of 100% ethical sourcing were fundamentally misleading, citing independent investigations of labor violations and horrific working conditions on certified farms. More shockingly, the same litigation alleged that independent laboratory testing of Starbucks' decaf house blend detected highly volatile organic compounds, including methylene chloride, benzene, and toluene. While Starbucks fiercely disputed the claims, the presence of industrial solvents in a premium-priced grocery bag is a horrifying wake-up call. This brings us to the industry-wide decaf solvent nightmare. Millions of Americans drink decaf for health reasons, unaware that the standard industrial method, the European method, uses methylene chloride to strip the caffeine. Methylene chloride is a highly toxic chemical that the EPA officially finalized a ban on for consumer uses like paint strippers due to its direct links to liver cancer and acute lethality. Yet, the FDA still allows a loophole for the coffee industry, permitting trace residues under the assumption that it bakes off. Consumer advocacy groups like the Environmental Defense Fund are actively petitioning the FDA to close this dangerous loophole. Unknowingly drinking a daily beverage processed with a chemical deemed too dangerous for a hardware store shelf completely defeats the purpose of choosing a healthy decaf, even if you try to buy high-end specialty options. You aren't safe from the Kona and origin fraud. Kona coffee from Hawaii commands astronomical prices, which creates a massive incentive for criminal counterfeiting. A federal grand jury indicted a prominent supplier for running a massive 12-year scam that generated over $5.2 million by purchasing South American commodity beans in Seattle and Oakland, slapping a 100% organic Kona label on them, and selling them to unsuspecting tourists and grocery chains. This wasn't a one-off. A massive class action lawsuit forced 20 major retailers to settle after they were caught selling sham Kona coffee that contained little to no actual Hawaiian beans. Anti-counterfeiting watchdogs estimate that this kind of origin fraud is a multi-billion-dollar enterprise. Finally, we have the flavored coffee chemical bath. Hazelnut, French vanilla, and seasonal pumpkin spice varieties are the most heavily chemically processed items in the grocery aisle. The industry uses flavored coffee as a landfill for their lowest grade, most effective, mold-ridden beans because the heavy chemical sprays completely mask the taste of rot. To make these flavorings stick to the beans, roasters drench them in propylene glycol, a synthetic liquid carrier solvent that is also used in industrial antifreeze. The front of the bag shows beautiful pictures of vanilla beans and cinnamon sticks, but the reality is a toxic chemical glaze designed to trick your senses into buying garbage. And now, what it was worth watching all the way through for. We are stepping out of the corporate swamp and moving into the light, because you do not have to settle for toxic, filler-ridden sludge anymore. There is a whole world of transparent, meticulously crafted coffees available right here in the United States that treat your health as a priority rather than a line item expense. The transition from the garbage we just exposed to the brands we're about to cover is like night and day. When you switch to a clean brand, you aren't just changing your morning beverage, you are altering your body's daily toxic chemical load. Let's kick things off with Bulletproof Coffee, the brand that practically invented the mold-free consumer coffee category over a decade ago. Bulletproof didn't just guess that mass-market coffee was full of garbage. They went to the labs and proved it. Their whole philosophy is built on human performance and biohacking, which means keeping inflammation-causing toxins out of your mug. Bulletproof publishes its strict testing methodology, utilizing state-of-the-art liquid chromatography tandem mass spectrometry laboratory methods to screen every single shipment of green coffee beans for heavy metals and mycotoxins before they ever hit the roaster. In terms of experience, this coffee is incredibly smooth, clean, and distinct, with none of that jarring, sour, or burnt rubber aftertaste you get from cheap store brands. It delivers a sustained, clean energy spike without the classic jittery crash that usually signals a heavy load of mold toxins and synthetic impurities. Price-wise, Bulletproof is highly accessible for a clean coffee, typically sitting between $15 and $19 for a 12-ounce bag. You can find it easily on the shelves of your local Target, Whole Foods, or online via Amazon. It is the perfect mainstream entry point for anyone looking to upgrade their daily ritual without breaking the bank. Next up is Fabula Coffee, a brand that has completely taken over the clean coffee space by substituting corporate secrecy with radical transparency. Fabula sources its beans from small, shade-grown, high-altitude farms primarily in remote regions of Peru, Colombia, and Mexico. What makes Fabula exceptional is its absolute refusal to compromise on testing. They independently lab test every single batch of their USDA organic, single-origin coffee for over 350 individual contaminants, including molds, mycotoxins, heavy metals, pesticides, glyphosate, and acrylamide. They literally publish authentic third-party laboratory mass spectrometry reports right on their product pages. If you suffer from acid reflux, heartburn, or stomach irritation after your morning cup, Fabula is a literal lifesaver. Because their beans are grown up to 7,000 feet, the coffee cherries ripen incredibly slowly, resulting in a naturally low-acid profile filled with smooth notes of caramelized sugar and rich chocolate. At around $20 to $24 for a 12-ounce bag, it is slightly more expensive than standard supermarket brands. But when you break it down to the cost per cup, you are looking at about 60 cents per serving. That's a tiny price to pay for a verifiably pure product that won't destroy your digestive tract. Organicfoodguides.com show. 1. If you want to take your health-focused sourcing even further, look at Cardiology Coffee. This brand was custom-built by Dr. Jack Wolfson, a board-certified cardiologist who grew frustrated watching his patients consume heavily sprayed, toxic commodity coffee while trying to heal their cardiovascular systems. Cardiology Coffee is USDA organic, ethically grown in the high-altitude regions of Honduras, and explicitly lab-tested to ensure zero traces of mold, mycotoxins, and chemical pesticides. Dr. Wolfson insists on clean sourcing because the antioxidant compounds in pure coffee support arterial health, while the mold toxins in conventional coffee can trigger systemic oxidative stress. The texture of this coffee is exceptionally crisp and light, providing a pure aromatic experience without a trace of artificial chemical glare or heavy industrial roasting defects. It retails for about $22 to $25 a bag online and through specialty wellness channels. It's a targeted, premium option specifically engineered for older adults and health-conscious consumers who view their morning cup as a form of medicine rather than just a quick dose of fuel. Then we have Life Boost Coffee, which sits at the pinnacle of premium, low-acid health coffees in America. Life Boost doesn't buy from massive commercial co-ops. They source their beans from a single high-altitude USDA organic estate in the mountains of Nicaragua. The coffee cherries are completely shade-grown in a protected bird habitat, hand-picked, washed with pure mountain spring water, sun-dried, and roasted in small batches. Life Boost has invested over $300,000 in independent laboratory testing, screening their coffee for more than 450 toxic substances, including aflatoxins, ochratoxin A, heavy metals, and an exhaustive list of agricultural pesticides. Drinking Life Boost is a completely different physical experience. It is incredibly gentle on sensitive stomachs, thick, velvety, and naturally sweet, meaning you don't need to drench it in milk or chemical creamers just to make it palatable. Now, let's be totally honest. Life Boost is expensive, often retailing around $28 to $29 for a 12-ounce bag on Amazon or through their direct site. The downside is clearly the premium price tag and the fact that you won't find it at a budget corner store. But if you have severe gastrointestinal issues, a deeply sensitive stomach, or a compromised immune system, the massive financial investment Life Boost puts into verification is completely justified. www.jporganiccoffee.com. You show 3 finally, the absolute gold standard of coffee. The single best option for your wallet, your health, and your taste buds is buying certified organic. Single origin whole beans from a transparent local roaster and grinding them fresh at home. You can find excellent USDA organic whole beans at Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, Costco, or your local independent coffee shop for anywhere between $14 and $20 a pound. When you buy whole beans, you instantly eliminate the possibility of industrial filler fraud, because a corporate machine cannot press a twig or a piece of corn into the shape of a coffee bean. By buying a cheap $20 burr grinder and processing the beans right in your own kitchen seconds before brewing, you preserve 100% of the active, health-protecting antioxidants and escape the pre-ground staleness trap entirely. It is a flawless, budget-friendly strategy that puts total control of the origin, purity, and freshness back into your hands. Let's arm you with the exact rules you need to protect yourself the next time you walk down the coffee aisle at Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, Costco, or your local Kroger. Rule number 1 is non-negotiable. Always buy whole beans and completely boycott pre-ground coffee. As we exposed earlier, whole beans are your absolute best insurance policy against industrial filler fraud, because no factory can mold a piece of cheap corn, soy, or a twig into the physical shape of a coffee bean. Rule number 2 is to look for the certified USDA organic seal on every single bag you purchase. Because coffee is one of the most aggressively sprayed crops on Earth, choosing organic is the single most effective way to instantly eliminate synthetic pesticides, herbicides, and toxic glyphosate residues from your morning routine. Rule number 3 requires you to check the bag or the brand's website for explicit mention of third-party contaminant testing. Clean, premium brands will proudly advertise that their batches are tested by accredited laboratories like Eurofins to prove they are completely free of mold, toxins, heavy metals, and chemical sprays. Rule number 4 is critical if you drink decaf. You must demand the Swiss water process or the certified chemical-free carbon dioxide method. If the bag of decaf does not explicitly state that it used a water-only process, you should immediately assume it was stripped using methylene chloride, the exact same dangerous chemical solvent that the federal government banned from consumer paint strippers. Rule number 5 is to seek out single-origin coffee from transparent, independent roasters who name the exact farm or region where the beans were grown. Traceability is the absolute enemy of both filler fraud and origin counterfeiting, and a roaster who proudly shares their supply chain data has nothing to hide. Rule number 6 is to always check the bag for a specific roasted on date rather than a vague best by date. A best by date is an industrial marketing trick designed to let stale, oxidized, dead coffee sit on a Target or Safeway shelf for a year, while a roasted on date tells you exactly how fresh the volatile, health-promoting antioxidants inside really are. To wrap this whole investigation up, the multi-billion-dollar commercial coffee industry is built on a foundation of massive commodity sourcing, zero transparency, and clever marketing jingles. The massive corporations that control the red plastic tubs and the cheap supermarket store brands count on you blindly reaching for their canisters without ever questioning what is actually inside the grind. They blend the lowest grade beans from undisclosed origins, burn them to a crisp to mask structural defects, and utilize regulatory loopholes to keep you completely in the dark about chemical residues and mold contamination. But by making just one simple shift in your thinking, by treating coffee as a fresh agricultural food product that requires testing and traceability rather than a cheap, shelf stable powder, you instantly stop being a victim of corporate manipulation. You regain total control over your health, your energy, and your wallet with every single scoop. Thank you so much for spending your valuable time with me today, digging up the truth about what is really hiding inside the American coffee market. If this investigation opened your eyes or made you look at your kitchen pantry a little bit differently, please hit that share button right now, because you definitely have a friend or a family member who drinks 3 cups of commodity sludge every single day and desperately needs this wake-up call. I want to hear from you down in the comment section. Drop a comment below and tell me exactly which brand of coffee is sitting on your kitchen counter right this second. And let me know if you are planning to throw it in the trash after today. If you want to keep learning how to protect your family from hidden grocery store deceptions, make sure to click on the video on your screen right now where we tear into the shocking secrets hidden inside popular bottled water brands. Stop letting the commodity market decide what goes into your body. Take care of your health, and remember, the word coffee on a label is never enough.